Hey everyone, welcome to Tuesday Tea with me, Alicia Becker Mudrock, and my co host Melissa. We're here with our guest, Jenny Hoak. I have her live visiting me, so today we're going to do something a little different, and our guest will be live with one of us, and Melissa streaming in, but we're really excited to get into it today. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Hey everyone.
So, we spoke a lot last month about this idea of summer of self, and we are doubling down on said topic with some really hard hitting conversations and messages from guests this month. And we're kicking it off with something I think everyone can relate to, with this idea of caring about others without carrying their emotional burden and load. And it can be really hard to be empathetic and not then let that drag us down. None of us here are perfect at it, but we all have some thoughts. So we're going to sort of dive in. I'll let Jenny first introduce herself a little bit, but then we're going to dive in and kind of just get into the tea.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jenny, as Alicia said. I live in Connecticut, and I am an architect, mostly in commercial restaurants, which comes with its own stressors, which is part of the reason why this topic was spot on for me. I just am getting married at the end of the year, so also equally as stressed with that as well. But yeah, happy to be here and get into this topic.
Any thoughts before we dive in, Melissa? Like any other questions or things you want to add?
No, I'm actually excited to talk about this because I feel like this is something I am less far along in my journey. And so I'm just excited to hear from both of you and get into it.
Okay, well, what are your initial thoughts, Jenny? Just to kick us off and we'll kind of take it from there.
This topic speaks to me a lot because I am a people pleaser by nature. I have a very hard time separating people's emotions from my own. I want to help all the time, so I just naturally am empathetic and want to be a problem solver and help people through whatever they're going through, but then that ends up, adding a weight on my shoulders that I don't necessarily need to carry, and I'm very bad at not doing that. Just naturally how I am.
Why do you think because I too can be a people pleaser, like why do you think it feels so unbearable to to sit with others' discomfort, or to why is someone else's discomfort more important to fix than us being uncomfortable, doing things at the expense of ourselves?
That's hard. I am someone who gets secondhand embarrassed too. So if I see that someone is in an uncomfortable position, or I have a very hard time not feeling like that's also happening to me because I'm witnessing it maybe. But yeah, I think that's tough. I don't know really how to answer it because I just so naturally want to do that and jump in and help and help carry the burden that I don't think I think before I do that. I think I just naturally do that.
Do it.
And hindsight obviously is the 2020 there, because like I said, my first reaction was to do it. I don't think about it too much.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this lately because I relate to that a lot. My first instinct is to help a lot, but when people haven't even asked for help, like at Costco the other day, this lady was older lady trying to put some stuff on there. So I moved my stuff forward and then moved her stuff forward so that she had more of the conveyor belt to put things on. And my boyfriend was like, "Why are you touching her stuff? What are you doing?" And he's like, "I love that you always want to help, but you can't touch people's stuff." And you don't know how people are going to respond to that. So anyway, that was just one example. I mean, when I say I'm really in tune to this lately about myself, because I think my boyfriend has been very sort of instrumental in shining a spotlight on that part of me, which he loves, but also is and I took the Enneagram test, and I'm a 2, which is the helper. And I guess I'm trying to figure out why that is my natural inclination, because I think it's likely a some kind of like response to like not feeling loved unless I was like overly helpful as a kid, or like, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that that's like our natural reaction necessarily all. I think it's probably like stems from something. And so I don't know. I've just been trying to like unpack that with myself and just figure out. But I would just like wonder what your thoughts on that, both of you are, because it's just so interesting. I'm like, I'm going to help a profession. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, yes, like not everything can be explained with trauma. Like sometimes things just are. And I feel like this might be a little deeper, at least for me. And so I
Yeah.
would love to hear what your thoughts are on that, especially, as a therapist, you know.
I think too sometimes we like get confused about needing to prove our worth, and for especially like socialized as women, you're supposed to help and nurture and care. And so a lot of times, even if it comes more naturally, but then we feel good when we've done something helpful. Like there's like, it feels good to be appreciated or needed or wanted. And so I think sometimes we get too tied up though. Like worth is inherent. It's just something that we're born with. But I think we are always trying to chase how to prove we're worthy. And I do think that sometimes by doing and intervening and carrying the load for others and making their life easier, whatever, we're trying to sort of like prove our worth, like you were saying, and that can like you can spin it off in many directions. I also think we as humans don't like to be uncomfortable. So if you are more empathetic, if we're more like an empath, which is that like you really are feeling stuff, it is uncomfortable to be in discomfort, and especially if it is somebody else's. And so sometimes to feel like we're in control again, we'll do something to change that because maybe they can tolerate it and they're fine, but we can't, and we don't like to be in distress. So we're gonna like do whatever to get back to something that feels like our starting point. And even if it's at the expense of ourselves, we've gotten used to that, which is the problem. And so that still feels more comfortable than your partner being mad at you or being in a bad mood about the flight being delayed that you have nothing to do with, but you feel responsible. So you're going to like try to fix it so they're not in a bad mood anymore. Where sometimes like just let the person be in a bad mood. It doesn't matter. Like that's their feelings. It doesn't matter, but it's uncomfortable to us and we can't tolerate that. So we therefore intervene to change it with the badge of honor of like, but I'm just helping, I'm just being so great. And I say that with eye roll, but like sometimes it is very martyry and it is very egotistical beneath the surface with like a pretty bow, like I'm so helpful.
Or thinking you can fix it. Like the ego of thinking you can be the one to
or that it
fix
needs to be
Yeah,
fixed.
yeah. My fiance and I have that conversation a lot. He's if he's in a bad mood, I want to jump in and be like, what can I do? How can I help? And he's like, I want you to do nothing. Like, don't do anything. He's like, even if he, he's a very competitive, like, sports person too. And so it's like, even if he does bad at something, I'm like, I'm sure it was okay. Like, I'm always trying to reassure. And he's like, I played like shit.
Yeah,
like,
just let it be.
Let it be. And I have such a hard time with that because it's like, I want to help or make people feel better. And when you're thinking about like starting points for stuff like that kind of behavior, I do think a lot of my life was shaped by the fact that I moved so frequently as a kid. Like a lot of my formative years, like every 3 years we were moving to like a completely different state. So I think that shaped me into always wanting to be accepted because I was always having to start over with people. And the easiest way to do that is to be like the least difficult person in the room. Like just don't make anyone uncomfortable or they're not going to come talk to you. You're the new girl, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's interesting that we both have that in common too. I'm like an immigrant. I lived in 3 countries by the time I'm 10 years, was 10 years old. And I think maybe that part of it was that. And then I think part of it's like when you move and you're like, all you have is your family, there becomes this unrealistic, I think it's quite unfair really in looking back as an adult. Like I think my parents really did the best that they could and did lots of great things. And this idea that like your family sort of trumps everything and like is this family dynamic, but like in that sense that was all we had was each other. So we did rely on each other for a lot, but I think then that sort of puts this undue pressure maybe of like, well, you have to do all of these things for the family because like we are all each other has kind of. And so there was a lot of also being the oldest, like, well, you have to take your brother here and there, you know, because I have to take your sister somewhere. And it's like, well, that actually, like in looking back and now as an adult, that actually wasn't my responsibility to actually help my parents parent their other children. Now, it's okay. And I think part of being a family is like taking on responsibilities. Um, but I think that probably made me that more that way too, because I felt this like I had to be a helper. I had to do all these things. Like that was an expectation. It wasn't like, oh, thank you for doing this extra. It was like that was just
Your
like I
job.
had to come back from college once to do something. I'm like, I'm at college. Like if I was in another state, you wouldn't even have access to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I think lots of like you said, I think Jenny, like lots of things play into it, but that's just like an interesting like
Yeah.
overlap that we have there, which I thought was
Well, even
curious.
just listening to you talk about that is also an overlap. I was 13 when my youngest sister was born. Same, once I got like my driver's license, it was like help pick her up from daycare. You know, like we were joking before, I was like, we would take, because my brother's a little bit older. So we would like go around the mall and we'd take her with us so that my parents could do what they needed to around the house. We're like, people probably think we're like teenage parents. But yeah, definitely was a, well, you have your license now. Like, we need you to do these things. And same, it was like an expectation. So you felt you wanted to be helpful. And then my sister, who's like a little bit younger than me, she had some of her own issues that I just felt like I had to be extra good to like counterbalance like her lifestyle. And I never wanted my parents to feel like she was that way because of them. So I wanted to prove like, hey, you're great parents. Look how I turned out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that idea of perfectionism is
Oh, that's heavy for a kid too, like to that you had that on you, you know? And it's not even necessarily something that your parents put on you, but like the fact that you were internally thinking about that. Yeah, I think about that a lot too as a parent now. Like, how can I help my kids like balance this idea of like collective responsibility and like
Mhm.
sort of social responsibility and impact, which I think is huge and, you know, especially with like privilege that they have, you know, being like, you know, white kids. Like, I do think that that's important. And I don't want them to feel like they're responsible for, you know, my happiness or
Right.
like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
Yeah.
it's like a fine line. I'm always trying to toe it. And I'm sure some days I do worse than others, but trying.
it's hard living with people too because you can't like always hide your
Right.
emotions. So it's hard because they're seeing you react and have emotion to things too. So how do you protect them from that, but also teach them like it's okay to have the feelings and
Yeah. And I'm thinking too about like Mel Robbins' new book, The Let Them Theory. I think it is this idea of really, even if this is where we've come from or why we respond to things, or you know, the awareness is that first step. But I think like this idea of just having that word of like, let them be mad, let them be uncomfortable, let them not invite me here, let them do whatever they're, let the woman at Costco not efficiently use this checkout line, like let them. Because I think if we can give ourselves permission, even if it's uncomfortable, but we can sit in the space of, if I put all this energy into so many other people and whatever else, like what if I double down and put that into myself? Like how much better could things be? And while it's not just like an easy switch to flip, I think if that's something like that word, I think it's so popular and resonates because it is so simple. And if we can have that as a reminder, then does that give you enough pause to not just react the next time, right? Like, where is this where we're just moving the needle even a little bit in little things that come up most often? But if we can practice building up tougher skin around the urge to fix, help, do, to carry everyone's shit in a way that is just like unhelpful all around, and instead let it just be, and trust other people can also have a different capacity for things or can handle things, or when we are asked for help that makes sense, how can we partner or come alongside without just like, well, just give it to me instead, right? And I always say too, it's sometimes it's such a disservice to take that from someone, especially your kids or little ones, because it's really hard to watch a kid struggle or be uncomfortable or be sad or whatever else. But if you are never letting them have some of those feelings too at this time, they're going to not know what to do with it when they're an adult. And sometimes, whereas adults, we're learning what we didn't learn as kids, but if we're not letting ourselves, our partners, whoever, have their feelings that they need to have, and we're just trying to like manage and fix and change, we're taking away something healing and an experience that they need as well by doing that. And we're not actually helping. We're hurting inadvertently in the long run, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
What are like good? I think part of it too for me is like I was saying before, when I see it, I don't think, and I just actually do.
Yeah.
It's like a good tool then to sort of control myself from doing that, or like prevent myself from
Yeah.
doing it. I don't know if it's like take a pause, you know what I mean, and like really
Yeah.
assess what's going on before I like try to step in. Yeah, it's such a, it's like I said, it's working against like myself, my
Right.
Totally.
so it's like I don't like, part of me likes that empathetic side of myself. Um, but also at the same time, like I have witnessed it, like, you know, cause issues or hurt people unintentionally. So it's like just finding like that check for myself before I do this, even if someone's not asking for my help. How do I differentiate, like, but maybe I should see if they need it, or am I overstepping, or you know what I mean? Like, how do
Yeah.
you get to that point?
Yeah, like creating that consciousness that
Yeah,
you
exactly.
aren't automatically doing
Right,
things. Yeah, I think that's
exactly.
really, really smart and hard, really
Yeah,
hard to do when it's become like so much of who you are,
yeah,
you know?
I think too, if you think about it in hindsight, every time probably similar things happen. You either have a similar sensation in your body, or you have a similar thought, um, you have a similar action that you're about to take. So if you can start tracking your cues that are information that you're about to go into that like automatic loop, then that's where you can take that step back, right? So I know for me, if I start to get really if I don't want other people to be like mad or uncomfortable, and when I know something happens that might cause the people around me to have like stress in that way, I get like a really tight chest and I start to feel really hot, and I just feel like I want to crawl out of my skin because I'm like, this person's about to be like pissed about something, or like, you know, the weather that I can't control, or again like the flight is delayed or something like that. I don't want anyone in the party to not be in a good space, but I know like I might get this immediate just like, I don't know. But instead of then needing to be, I don't know, whatever I think my automatic action is, I need to sit, and then I know for me that's more somatic, so I need to either get up and move, or I need to take some deep breaths, or I just need to distract, because that feeling will pass, and it's not information that I actually need to act. It's just that I'm uncomfortable because I don't like people to be angry. It's like not an emotion I grew up around a lot in a big way, and so when people are big angry, it makes me feel weird. But then I can get past it, and then I can say, okay, like they have their feelings. We're gonna all move through this. I'm not bothered, or I am okay, or there is nothing I need to do. So I can make more of a logical, like this brain on decision than just like my primitive brain. So I'd say it's like thinking what's a common like thought or feeling or whatever. There's probably a similar one every time. And when you notice that, it's just saying like, let me just examine this.
Yeah.
Like, is someone asking for my help? Do they need my help? Does this make sense? Is this for me? Or is this like actually going to benefit? You know, like whatever your questions are, and it will just give you that ability to have more of a rational reaction versus or response versus just like an automatic reaction.
I would definitely have to pay attention, because I couldn't even tell you what I think that like
what's happening for you.
exactly. And I also am someone, I get the flooding. So I am someone, when there's a lot of emotion going on, I like tune out. Like I could be like, if there's confrontation or something like that, my natural reaction is just to kind of like shut it all down. And like if I get in a fight or something like that and I try to reflect on the fight, I have a hard time fully remembering what happened. So I think that's part of it too, is like when there's a lot of emotion going on because of the empathy too, even if it's not mine, like
Yeah.
it's causing that flooding in me.
Yeah.
So it's like I gotta
But
think
you
about
shutting
that.
down is your information then.
Yeah.
So it's just if you're starting to shut down, then you're gonna say, okay, then you need to like go step away or do less or whatever,
Yeah.
because that might be then your cue
Yeah, that's
of what
interesting.
like you're getting to that place of like you might just start
How
isn't
do
as
I
helpful.
how do I fix this sensation I'm feeling?
Something I've noticed about myself in this sort of like recent journey about why do I have this, like, it's like a need. Like if I see someone struggling, I like physically like feel like I'm drawn to helping them, and sometimes I have to be like, okay, like nobody asked you, like stop it. But it's like also balancing that anyway. So what I've been doing lately is if someone texts me something, say like, oh, sorry, it's been a really hard week, or oh, I can't go because my mom just had a seizure and she's in the hospital and I'm taking care of her, right? I think my natural reaction, which is like, why? What? That's not my responsibility. And I can have empathy for someone and say, I'm really sorry that you're going through that. That sounds really hard. I hope she heals. At the end, I would be like, let me know if you need anything.
Yes.
And I started to consciously recognize it, which I think is the first point and the first step, right? Like recognizing you have a problem. Then I would like be like, wait, but what am I actually going to do here? Like, what am I actually going to be able to do? Or like, why would I offer to help? Like, this isn't my family. Like, I can love someone and offer like words of support without actually supporting them. And that can be a boundary that I have, but I'm still able to like be kind and be supportive, just, and sometimes that's all people want. Like, what was she actually going to say to me? Like, yes, you can actually help by driving to Idaho and helping me with
Yeah,
my
come do
mom. Like,
laundry for
you know
us.
what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's like
Right.
insane. When I say it out like that, I'm like, why would you even offer that? So I've just been like trying to leave those things off and just say like, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Like, I hope that she heals quickly, or like, I hope that
Yeah.
you're able to take care of yourself during this, or whatever, right? But I think that's something that I'm always looking for, like quick wins, or like things that I can like do with enough repetition that I'm hoping it creates some kind of like
Yeah.
muscle memory response, right?
Yeah.
And so that obviously it's way harder in the moment when you're physically next to someone, because you can't like
Yeah.
pause, you can't erase the text, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's something that I think has been helpful for me.
Yeah. I think it's great. Like, cause it's just like, what are you actually also willing to do? I mean, maybe she did live close by, but do you have the capacity, or is that actually something you're wanting to help with if she did ask, right? Like, and I think sometimes too, another version of that, if you have the availability, is like, if you need to talk, or if I can like just be an ear, like if, I'm not necessarily going to give you my other services because maybe for whatever reasons, but if that was
Yeah.
something on the table, like, and if that's something you're willing, if not, then you don't even have to offer it. But I think it is like a more specific version of what we are actually willing to do to help.
So true.
And it's asking. It's not just, it's saying like, then we're just calling her 1,000 times because she must need you to tell her about all her feelings, right? It's just saying like, can I call you? Or if you need to, you can. Or the woman at Costco, hey, ma'am, do you want me to move your items up? Can I help you? They say no, they say no. And it's not like we can never help or be helpful, but it's inviting them into the conversation to actually have a say in the thing we're about to impose on people that we think is a great idea. But not everyone sees that as helpful
Yeah.
or wanted or a good idea on their end either.
It's so true. And it's sometimes like this, the idea of like what we think we would want in that moment is like not always what other people would want.
No.
And it's like, to your earlier point, Leash, like, why are we deciding for people what they need or want, right? And like sometimes, yes, if like an old gentleman falls on the sidewalk, of course we're gonna go help him up. Right? Like, do you need me to help you off the pit? No. Like there's some things like that that I think are just natural and like should always sort of happen. But yeah, I think that's another thing I need to start like challenging myself on, is like, why would I do that? Like, I'm now taking away someone else's choice, or like, that doesn't feel like okay. Just because I would maybe want that doesn't mean someone else would. And actually, like, sometimes I get annoyed when people help me unsolicited because it makes me feel
Yes.
like man, it's like mansplainy kind of, but like it's like who said like I didn't say I needed help. So now actually that I'm saying that out loud, I'm like that's kind of messed up that I do that when like I get annoyed when people help me in some ways unsolicited
No,
because it
for
makes me
sure.
feel like condescension in a way of like, oh, you have these two big heavy things. Like I didn't ask for your help. Like please
Mhm.
stop,
Right.
So wow, I'm just having like these moments of self-discovery in the moment in real time.
I think another helpful question to ask too is like, is this for me or is this for them? Because sometimes I'll see like Taylor does a lot of the cooking and he'll be in there cooking and then all of a sudden I feel really like bad that I'm just sitting on the couch not doing something. So I'll like get up and then I'll get in the kitchen area and start doing something. And he's like, why are you in here? Like, go away. And I'm like, I'm just going to help you unload the dishwasher. He's like, that is the most unhelpful thing right now. Like, I'm cooking. Our kitchen's not that big. Like, but it's because of me. I feel bad like I'm not helping the household, so I need to get up and move because he's doing something where he is no problem if I'm doing stuff when it's my time to do my chores or whatever, and he's just watching TV. He can sit there and watch it unapologetically, and I love that for him. But it's like it wasn't like he's looking at me like huffing around like she's not helping me and I was supposed to, and whatever.
Yeah.
It's that it was a me problem that I felt this like I'm not pulling my weight. I'm not worthy right now. I'm not being helpful enough. I need to go do some bullshit thing that is unhelpful, that nobody asked for. So it wasn't about the other person. Like it wasn't actually helping him. It was because of my own feelings about it. Right. So that can be another check-in too.
That just makes me think about, I mean, even coming here and visiting, like if I'm at someone's house too and they're like prepping or, anything, I asked Alicia probably 5,000 times, how can I help? What can I help set up? That sort of thing. But really in the back of my head, I'm thinking, I really don't want to help. I really want to do nothing. I'm here to relax or, I'm doing whatever. But it's like if I don't ask, I feel like ungrateful almost of like I'm not appreciating the effort it takes to host or to prep, a meal or whatever. And so I want to at least offer it, even though really in the back of my head, I'm like, I actually don't want to help, but I feel bad if I don't ask.
That's exactly it. And I think that can be like the best check-in for yourself
Yeah.
too. And that's how I've started to
With the
like not
text.
say those things in my text,
Yep.
but I'm like, I don't actually want to do anything for this person. And that sounds really mean, but it's not. It's like this idea though of like we've been socialized to believe like we have to offer when we
Right.
don't actually want to, and like there's certain times it is appropriate to offer, right?
100%.
Or it's like offer once because that's probably like the appropriate sort of etiquette when you're in someone's home, right? Maybe, and if they say no, like no, and trust
Yeah.
that like if they need help or there's something you can do, they're gonna ask. But that's something I too I've started to try to do. It's similar vein. Like if I say to someone like, my boyfriend, are you okay? If he says I'm fine, it's really hard for me to let it go if I can know he's not fine,
I
right?
know.
It's like I see it on your face.
You're like,
not
tell me
fine.
why you're not fine.
Yeah.
Why is that my responsibility
It's
to
not.
like unpack your emotions for you?
No.
Like if and when you're ready to share, like you will share. And it's really hard for me to sit with that because in my head, of course, and this is just like mental illness, like it on full display when I'm like, oh my God, he's mad at me, like something. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is nothing. Stop. And it's like
Right.
the overthinking and then the loop and then the
Yeah.
spiraling. I mean, so yeah, it's so interesting that it's all connected. And I think also like I have a hard time asking for help when I need help. And
Huge.
so I'm just now like also thinking about like that connection and how that like why am I so overly helpful when I feel like
Never.
it's very hard. It's like a very hard for me to ask for help, and I've started to get better at it. But it is still quite hard for me to like say, "Hey, I need help," because somehow that makes me feel like I am not handling it, or I'm less than, or weak,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
not capable. So
I
that's
was
just that's
thinking the
another
same
interesting
thing with
connection.
the going back to the hosting where it's like I could never imagine hosting though and then being like, hey, can you go cut those potatoes for me? Like just throwing like a task onto someone. So
Right.
it's like I want
Unsolicited.
yeah. So it's like I wonder like are they thinking like well I would you know what I mean? They wouldn't just give me that task. So I always feel like I should ask because maybe that's when they would be like, yeah, chop, this for me. Like
Sure,
they
sure,
might
sure.
because I know I personally wouldn't be able to like say I needed
Ah.
help.
Yeah.
unless it was asked. And same at work. I'm the same way at work too.
To be fair, I did not let her do anything but cut up a watermelon because she wouldn't stop asking me to help. But it was not even, she didn't even have to. But I did tell her to go shut up and go outside and stop asking me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was like, this is kind of a perfect topic because I'm aware that I am talking about this and also experiencing it with Alicia this weekend. So.
But I think that just goes to show that, like, no matter how much work we're doing, like, it's always in progress. Like, we're always in progress, and you've never like arrived at.
No.
I think it's all just like we're doing really good some days, and we're doing not so good other days. But I think the important thing is that you're aware and you're working on it, and you're just making those like moves to try to like make it better for yourself at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So that is like something that I think we should just take a moment to recognize that we're all doing the work.
We are.
Yeah.
And I think it just always comes back to curiosity and like keeping the conversation going, because different ways to show support and help is different for different people in different scenarios. And I think it's always just inviting that question or that inquiry to ourselves, whether it's even something to broach, or is this just a me problem I need to like work on, or like, I don't think it's bad to be helpful, but like, again, let's give someone the choice to participate in that instead of just forcing our help on everybody, or our trying to take. It's like, think of it too, if it was someone's feelings or something you're trying to manage, like with your boyfriend, which we're all nodding, so we've been there. Like if you had a backpack on, those were his feelings, and you're like, just come on, like, give them to me, and he's like, this is my backpack, and you're like, okay, but I'll just hold it for you. I can do it better, right?
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't actually like do that, but that's almost what we're like doing in these scenarios too. So I think just inviting the space to hold with, or like, I'll carry it sometime to help. You don't want me to? Okay. Or like, can I tangibly do this or emotionally do that? And not offering what we're unwilling to give, because we don't have to. So if we don't want to, let's not even put it out there, because there's no point either. So I think it is this beautiful progress that we're always making, but I think it is like not just one or the other, it's nuanced, but those are some like different ways to have it be more this conversation than a thing that's happening in different people's spaces to each other, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Any last thoughts, comments?
I'm never even thought to see like what a trigger and you know what I mean, anything like sort of the idea that maybe there is a reaction in me that's happening prior to me acting. Like I never even thought to like listen for that, like in my own mind.
Yeah.
What is like, why do I jump to that? So now I'm like, feel like I'm gonna hyper pay attention to it now. Like, what is it? Because it is such a fine line in my personality to truly want to help, but also not overstep. So it's, I think once again, because it is the people pleaser side, so it's like just by offering help, and if it's not wanted, then I'm not actually making that person happy by doing that. So I'm actually kind of doing the opposite of what I think I'm doing. So
yeah,
it's definitely something to keep in mind.
I love it. Well, thanks for being here today, guys.
Yeah,
we'll see you
thank you so
next
much.
time.
It was nice meeting you.
Have a great rest of your week.
Bye.
Bye.